So we have Steve Pope with us, who is the Solar Energy Industries Association, otherwise known as SEIA, SolarAPP Plus Outreach Manager. We also have my colleague, Emerald Sage, who is the Solar United Neighbors SolarAPP Plus National Campaigner. So without further ado, I would love to pass it over to Steve to take us away with today's presentation.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate it. And thank you, Rosalind, for providing this translation service. This is really the first time I've done this, so I will try to speak slowly and without too many idioms. So I'm Steve Pope. I'm with SEIA, the Solar Energy Industry Association. I use he/him pronouns, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the problems with permitting and the reason that the Department of Energy created the SolarAPP program. So if we can go to the next slide, Emerald. That was just the normal disclaimer that that what we're going to be going through is these are my opinions and my experiences. They do not represent necessarily SEIA's stance on any particular policy or anything to that effect. They are not to be misconstrued otherwise. Next slide. So, the main problem with permitting is that the process is not uniform throughout the United States. Jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and we are going to use a term called AHJs, the authorities having jurisdiction. Those authorities having jurisdiction are different from state to state, from region to region, just sometimes even just next door neighbors. Those cities can be different in terms of how they process permits, how quickly they can do that, and it's mainly due to our patchwork of rules and regulations that differ from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So what that really means is that it's part of the overall what are called soft costs of solar. So the soft costs are everything from accounting to sales to marketing to things like permitting and interconnection weights. And those cues really do make a big difference in terms of how much that affects the homeowner's actual end price. Currently now, solar soft costs outweigh the actual hard costs, which are the solar panels, the inverters, the ductwork, all that stuff. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll get into a little bit more. So the life of the permit is pretty simple. Permitting team from the installer is going to get these plans. They're going to review them. They're going to look them over for safety and for code compliance. This isn't a normal process. I'm not explaining SolarAPP. I'm just kind of giving you a normal life of a permit. The contractor must have an active business license for the jurisdiction they're working in, or an active electrical license, or there may be other licenses that they require, like a green energy technology permitting, or a green energy technology license, which, again, depending on state by state, it is different. The contractor then is going to, once the plans have been reviewed, they're going to pay for that permit. If there's any revisions that they have to do, the plan reviewer will send that back to the contractor to do. And then that could take, again, some additional time in that back and forth process. If you can believe it, that review process is also not uniform throughout the country. Some jurisdictions will read the permit, the submission, and as soon as they hit that first error, they'll send that back. Now that submission may have other errors in it, and unfortunately that's not going to get caught because some plan reviewers just don't do that kind of full inspection of the plans. So again, that whole back and forth process really does eat up a lot of time, though, and in how the permit is. Again, this is just to get the work started, in how the permit is actually delivered. If we can go to the next slide. Great. And so this is kind of a taste of the patchwork of codes that we have. This is the NEC, the National Electrical Code adoption. And as you can see, there's a couple of states that are at the more recent codes and standards, as well as there's a couple, pretty big laggards like Indiana and Kansas back on 2008 codes. Those codes don't have anything in them about battery storage. And as storage becomes more ubiquitous throughout the country, you really want to have codes that kind of reflect how to make sure that the system that's going on the roof and in the house is up to those particular codes. And again, you can do a lot of this review part in the field and during inspection, but by no means is that usually the best way to do it. It's better to catch that early, that mistake, than to have it put on and then catch it later. If we can go to the next one, this is going to be the building code adopted code cycles. Again, not everybody's on the most recent building codes that are out there. In fact, I think the 2024 codes are going to be announced. They're already out, and we're going to be announcing their ability to be in SolarAPP as well. But again, this gives you a flavor of how the adoption of these codes isn't A, it's not uniform, and B, it's also not all in lockstep. States are not moving up to a new code cycle in tandem. A lot of times it's disjointed, and that was something that we found out over time. If you can go to the next slide. This is just an example of one of the states that really is I think a decent example of how the two biggest cities, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, have their own codes and standards that are different from the rest of the state. They're able to see up to I think one of the people is saying that they can't see anything that we're showing. I don't know, is that just one person or is that everybody?
Vicente, you should be able to, there are probably two screens. One is the panelist screen where you're seeing both of the panelists, and then the other screen should show the presentation. So you can just try to switch to the presentation.
Great. Thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate that. All right. So, but this, again, it kind of gives you a little taste of how a big state like Pennsylvania has trouble keeping up with the codes and the standards that are out there. And that really can, again, it affects how solar can be adopted, because a submitter is going to have to remember that they're not in Philadelphia proper anymore. They're in a different place that has different codes and resubmit throughout that. And that's it can be tricky. It can be very time consuming and frankly inefficient. So if we can go to the next one. So how do we fix this? I think the first part of admitting that there needs to be an admission that there is a problem, and I think that that's a good first step. Recognizing that being up to speed on the most recent codes has advantages. Obviously, there's costs that come along with that, but again, it can be useful to at least have those conversations about why to move up, right? What are you gaining from doing that, especially when it comes to safety? And I think everybody is on here because they're concerned about that, right? We want to keep making sure that the systems that are on these roofs are safe and code compliant. We need to basically also, find resources to help drive that adoption. There is a lot of money that's on the sidelines right now through the IRA Act, that could be utilized to help these jurisdictions that may be lagging behind, maybe to help them catch up. I also think that one thing that we're going to experience in the next couple of years is a changing of the guard, and we do need a workforce development plan in place to bring us a deeper bench of people that are going to fill in that gap of knowledge behind the people that are going to be retiring in the next couple of years. We're starting to see that now in California, where there's just not enough talent to go around, and we're hoping that places like SEIA and others can be helpful in steering that. If you can go to the next slide. I think we only have just a couple more, I promise. We also want to encourage those adoption of the national electric codes and the I codes where possible. It's important that if we can keep most of the country on the same stuff, we know it's a big ask, but I do think that it has a knock-on effect of making sure that the safety, the quality of the work should be up to snuff, right? It should be hitting a high bar, like at least some sort of standard. And I think that that's where we can really shine, is by making sure that there's a way to push for that. We can also help with, there's definitely a lot of programs that are out there like SolSmart that will help with an overall kind of a strategy for jurisdictions that are looking to get more solar in their area. That's I think I look at SolSmart as kind of your strategic overview of, hey, I want to have community solar and we want to have commercial and industrial solar in our jurisdiction. We want to have residential. How do we make sure that that is, our jurisdiction's ready to do that? And that's kind of a game plan for it. And then SolarAPP is more of a distinct tactic within that overall strategy, right? We are going to be focused on permitting in particular and making sure that there's a way to be automated plan review that is also safe and code compliant, right? We're not taking that job away from the inspectors. We're not, the buck still stops at them. They're still going to check for workmanship and making sure things are okay. But at least we can take some of these projects that are more or less the same, that fit into this box that SolarAPP can do, and quickly and easily review them and get the permit ready to get started right away. And then carrot or stick, I think, is the unfortunately the world that we live in. There's plenty of incentives that are out there, but they do some of them also do have not disincentives, but if you're not compliant with that process, that you could be in trouble. I think personally that the carrot is much more effective than the stick. It certainly works better for my kids, so I think that that's usually a good indicator that that's probably a better solution. I think incentivizing jurisdictions that these are good solutions, they're ready for prime time, try them out. The SolarAPP costs nothing for jurisdictions to adopt. So it is, it's an opportunity to give tools to the building officials and to the building department that have never existed before. Like, there's never been a free tool that I'm aware of that will make sure that some of the pressure is taken off of these departments. There's just a lot of work to be done. And Emerald, if you get to the next one, I think we're close to wrapping them up. Yep. The other way to fix this is to have the citizens and industry groups talk to their local governments about these solutions. that has been, in my opinion, the bigger differentiator when it comes to some of these jurisdictions adopting SolarAPP in particular, or SolSmart for that matter, is that there is this recognition that they want more they want more solar in their area. Maybe their green team or local Sierra Club is advocating for newer solutions, and these can be them, right? And it you're not going to necessarily, it's not necessarily my work that's doing any of this. It's citizens that are active online, and they've come across these tools, and they're out there advocating for them because they recognize what it can help reduce the time to getting an installation done. Certainly in a lot of places, I came from the solar industry. I knew how bad it was in New Jersey, and I knew what it was like in New York. In New York, in Staten Island, I could get a permit in about, a couple of weeks, maybe. In New Jersey, it was a couple of months. And I think that those can be, in my mind, those are kind of the catalysts of, hey, these things are very different, and what can we do to change them? All right. Last slide, I think. Yeah, you can go to the next one. I think that's a dupe. Great. So I have been seeing a bunch of, as I've been talking, a bunch of questions that have been popping in. So, Sarah, how do you want to handle that? Do you want to just queue them up for me, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I think folks, if you do have questions that you would really like to have answered, please make sure to put them in the Q&A. And then as soon as Emerald is done with her slides, Steve and Emerald can kind of take turns answering your questions.
Great. Emerald, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation, Steve, and thank you everyone for being here and wanting to learn more about solar permitting and SolarAPP. I am super excited to be talking to so many people about this topic. So Steve went over a lot of the problems with our solar permitting system. Right now it's expensive. There are a lot of fees with the permits, with inspections. It is a lot of work on the side of the installer, and it can take a really long time. And that's just not fun for anyone. You buy solar, you want it as soon as possible, and you don't want to have to go through a really complex process to get there. And right now we're seeing a very large impact on people's wallets and time with our current solar permitting system. So right now it costs about $7,000 in direct and indirect permitting costs for a solar system. And we see that if there is a 1-week delay in a permitting timeline, there can be a 5 to 10% customer cancellation rate. So we want to make sure that people are saving money and actually getting their solar panels and not saying, you know what, actually, that's too much. So a solution was created called SolarAPP. Now, it's not an app for your phone. It is a solar automated permitting processing platform. So it was created by the U.S. Department of Energy's National Energy Renewable Lab, or NREL. And it is a platform that helps us simplify solar permitting. So what it does is it integrates directly into a local government's existing permitting system. There's a lot of different ones all over the country, and it can handle just about all of them. And it's a really simple integration. It takes, about a day or less. And then from there, it automates that plan review. And so instead of there being a lot of different steps or paperwork, it's all in one place, and it's all automated online. And it helps installers be able to track their projects better. Additionally, like Steve was talking about, there's a lot of different code and regulations that are being updated every year or every few years. This platform stays up to date. So it's going to ensure that your solar system is reaching the highest new compliance required. And right now it's reviewing about 70 to 80% of residential rooftop solar permits in jurisdictions that have this integrated already. The other 20 to 30% are more complex solar permits, and then building officials will take more time with them and be more hands-on. So we're seeing a big impact here. It can save people hundreds to thousands of dollars just in the permitting process alone, and it can save up to 13 days. So you'll go from waiting weeks or months for your permit to minutes. So you're getting faster approvals, so you're getting your solar panels sooner. You are saving money in the overall cost of the project, and we're modernizing our government. So like Steve was saying, not too often do workers get a free way to make their life easier and save them time. We're saving building permit officials hundreds of hours when a lot of them are working overtime or just having to have a large backlog of permits. We're helping to eliminate those backlogs and then allow those workers to focus on more complex permits. Additionally, it reduces paperwork. It's all online. So our hope is that with SolarAPP, we can increase solar across the country where we can get more done faster. We can also lower the overall cost for solar. So as installers are seeing that it's taking less time and less money, they can be lowering overall costs. So more low-income families are able to access solar. And additionally, we're getting more solar on time or more solar online faster. So we're reducing our dependence on fossil fuels faster. So I know there's a lot of questions about like, where is SolarAPP? Is it available in these different areas? So SolarAPP right now is in all these different places across the country. Currently, it is implemented in just about every single city and county in California. They passed a law a couple of years ago requiring jurisdictions to adopt SolarAPP, and they also provided incentives in the form of a grant. And now at that point, most have adopted it. And then Maryland also just passed a bill requiring all jurisdictions by the end of next year to adopt SolarAPP. They also have a grant program that'll be opening hopefully next month. Colorado also has a grant program that will be opening next month for jurisdictions to apply and get money to adopt SolarAPP. And then as you can see, all over the rest of the country, either cities and counties are already using it, or they're interested and they're talking to the SolarAPP team to help get it implemented. For most cities and counties, SolarAPP can be used. In some places like Florida or New Mexico, there are some updates that are needed to be made on the platform to work in every single city and county. But however, we're working on it. And so we're hoping that it can be across the country. And if you have questions about, is your jurisdiction already using SolarAPP? I believe Sarah has that link to drop in the chat for you all. If not, we'll follow up with that. And additionally, we'll have a way for you to contact your local electeds and get them to adopt SolarAPP. But you may be wondering, why this platform? We're not selling anything since it's a free platform. There are other platforms to help simplify solar permitting. However, SolarAPP is entirely free for cities and counties to use, where other ones cost money. It also completely automates the entire permitting process, whereas other platforms may require some building officials to go in manually to review. SolarAPP also standardizes those forms and compliance checks, so it's helping to ensure that your solar system is even more safe, whereas other platforms may not be able to have that kind of up-to-date processing. And then it integrates very easily with existing building office officials' systems, whereas other platforms may not have those capabilities. So SolarAPP is just kind of like the obvious platform to be advocating for solar permitting. And now, how can you get involved? How can you make it so that if your city or county does not already have SolarAPP, you can ask them to. So Sarah, if you can drop that action link in the chat. So you can take just a few seconds to enter in your name and your address, and our platform will be able to figure out who your city or county local electeds are. And then you can send them an email and say, please adopt this. It's free. If you're in Colorado or Maryland, their governments are offering money for your cities and counties to adopt it. So that's, don't let them leave money on the table. And then if you're in some place like California where they already have SolarAPP, you can send them a message saying, thank you so much for adopting it. It's making life easier. And so the goal is to pass policies in all of these different states, and so that at a larger level, states are requiring their cities and counties to be adopting it, just like Maryland and California. Ideally, we'll have a mandate and an incentive together. While SolarAPP is free, we still think it's a good idea to be able to offset any cost that comes with training of staff when they adopt SolarAPP. While NREL does provide free training for staff to learn more about SolarAPP and implement it. But we're looking to pass these policies, and you emailing your local electeds really helps us in this process. So that was a lot. I think SolarAPP can be a little complicated, and I may not always be the best at explaining it. So my email is there if we don't get to your question tonight and you want to follow up.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Emerald. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate you sharing this information with everyone, and everyone who's in presence today. Thank you so much for all of your questions. It looks like we have quite a few to get through here. So I think we can kind of just get started, and Steve and Emerald, you can tag team answering these live. So let's see. I saw one that I think probably a lot of you are wondering. So I'm just going to go ahead and share. Dennis asked, how and where do we get SolarAPP? There's a couple of apps on the Apple Store, but I don't think that's what we're talking about. And so, Steve, I'm going to pass that one over to you.
Yeah, so I just answered that one. It stands for Solar Automated Permit Processing. The government loves their acronyms, so they couldn't resist. So it's not really an app per se. It's more of an online computer program that is doing real plan review, right? You put in the answers, and it is looking at the entire solution that you're submitting and saying, hey, the inverter that you told us we were going to have, you're using, and the wire size or something like that isn't correct. Like one of those is wrong, so fix it. And so it kind of guides the submitter along the path to get a compliant solution. So that's what it's doing. I should also point out, I think there's a couple of questions about this. It is not for homeowners directly. It is for licensed and certified contractors only. This is for people that are doing a lot of submissions every single day, and it's to help them move those projects along, reduce the amount of back and forth during the revision process, and it can really just to speed up the whole thing from end to end, not for homeowners.
Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing that answer. All right, looks like we have several. I saw Scott, you asked how you can find out if your jurisdiction uses SolarAPP. I'm just gonna paste that link again in the chat for everyone to see. Oops, sorry, I posted that just to the panelists. So not to everybody. So if you want to check if your jurisdiction uses SolarAPP, please check out that link. All Alrighty, and then James, I saw your question around whether or not it's applicable in Puerto Rico. You can also use that link, but I'm also seeing a thumbs up from Steve. So Steve, can you tell us a little bit about SolarAPP in Puerto Rico?
Yes. So the short answer is we're available in any jurisdiction that is willing is able to have the solar app permits be adhering to NEC 2017 and IBC 2018. So those are the oldest codes that we go back to. Everything else is going to be more of the newer stuff. We also felt that those codes gave enough about solar and storage that was able to be useful and help us make sure that these submissions are safe. So in Puerto Rico, the short answer is we believe that we are ready to go. We just need a jurisdiction down there to work with us to adopt it.
All right, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's calling in from Puerto Rico tonight. I know it's very late for you, and so we really appreciate you joining us so close to bedtime. So thank you for being here. Alrighty, so okay, someone had a question about whether or not SolarAPP Plus is useful for community solar permits as well. I didn't know if either of you panelists had thoughts about that.
So currently we are not. We're focused on residential solar right now. That is our primary focus, is to walk before we can run. We do plan on it is on our roadmap to do commercial and industrial and community solar at some point. I don't know how close we are to that. The good news is SolarAPP is going to free up that plan reviewer who's looking at the residential plan and is also looking at the community solar plan. It's going to free them up to now just concentrate on the community solar plan, which is more complex, which is more there's a lot more time and energy you need to expend on it because it's a very different permitting situation. There's a lot more that goes on in that.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is kind of a very specific question, but we've got a question from Richard asking if he leases 19 acres of his farm to a solar developer, would SolarAPP be useful? So I
No,
guess
probably not really, other than if that same area has a lot of solar development in it, then SolarAPP can take some of the pressure off of those plan reviewers so that they can concentrate on other community solar projects or transmission level projects or something like that you're talking about.
all right. And Patrice just corrected me that Puerto Rico is on the same time zone during the summer. So forgive me, I lied, everyone. It's not bedtime for Puerto Ricans right now. Okay, so Mark is asking, he's asked his township about solar permitting, and they sent him a link to the eCode 360 website.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, do you have any information on the time and cost of permitting guided by eCode 360? Or, is there a way we can redirect what they're asking into a kind of action that will benefit SolarAPP?
So they're kind of giving you the E360 codes to say look through these and tell just so you understand what's involved with permitting. My suggestion, Mark, would be to have your township check out SolarAPP. It is free. And when I say it's free, it is free to implement. Doesn't cost them anything in the future. It's paid for by the solar contractor, paying us money to process those plans and to review them. So the the AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction, does not pay for that. And in my opinion, it is worth small to mid-size townships and cities, for that matter, to look into SolarAPP, because they are the ones who are typically crunched on a budget, and they just are being asked to do more with less every single day. So this is an opportunity that they've never had. They've never had a solution like this.
Thank you. Yeah,
Mhm.
it really seems like the value of this is tremendous. So I'm really excited to, that we're seeing some positive movement, at least in this direction. Someone posted something, a question about an HOA, and I can't find that question now. But if you would like to get involved, take action on your HOA, learn about HOA restrictions. We do have a free HOA solar action guide, and I just posted the link to that in the chat. So folks, while that doesn't directly to relate to what we've got going on here, please feel free to head over to that if you're interested. Alrighty. So, okay, I saw a few folks wondering about DIY projects. Can you tell me a little bit about how SolarAPP works with or doesn't work with DIY projects?
Yeah, it doesn't right now. I mean, like I said, we're kind of geared towards the contractors that are submitting these projects on a regular basis. We want to give them an express lane to get a permit immediately and be able to start work. A DIYer, and I'm not meaning any disrespect on this, but my 2 cents is that if a DIYer were to submit in my town, I would want to be looking at their plans. I would not just say that this person, how do I know that this person has any idea about electricity? How do I know that they have any idea about what the right mounting equipment is for the snow load that's in our particular jurisdiction? It would, in my opinion, that it would be probably the right thing to do is to make a DIYer at least submit to a person that they can talk to about why they had errors in their submission.
Thank you, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it looks like there may still be a little bit of a sticking point around seeing the availability of SolarAPP Plus. So I'm wondering, Emerald or Steve, is there another way we can frame this information or share this so that folks on this call can access it?
Emerald, you want to take that
Yeah,
one?
so that link has the jurisdictions that are fully live with SolarAPP. And since California had that mandate, most of the cities on there are California. But if you scroll or you do control find, you can see other places like Houston, Texas, or Montgomery County, Maryland. A lot of counties are in the piloting stages or they're talking to the SolarAPP team. And that isn't public yet since it's not official. But if you do want to email me and you can ask and I can look and see what the status is. But at the very least, you can always just take action and just let your city and county know that people are thinking about this, people are talking about it. And I'm sure if you email them and they already have it, they'll respond and they'll let you know too. Sorry that website isn't the easiest to find. I can look at maybe having a website where it gets easier. And I can also let the NREL team know about the functionality of that website so it's easier for you all to see where SolarAPP is.
We do have a map, but it's not live yet. Sorry. So
it's on the way.
yes, there's a lot of stuff that's coming that's going to make it easier for you all. I want to take Matt Shad's question because I think it's an important one. Explain the legal status of the SolarAPP solution. Would this be considered an agent of the local building official? Does the app guarantee a locally compliant submission? What is the responsibility of the local building official once receiving the submission? Great question. Really goes into a lot of detail. So you could consider SolarAPP to be like a deputized agent. Um, we are, the way I look at us is as if we were an outside third-party engineering firm, right? That a contractor goes to and says, hey, I wasn't sure about all what I put together. Can you check my math, right? And they pay an engineering firm to do that. We're doing the same thing. We're checking through it, making sure it's safe, making sure it's code compliant. And if it is, then they pay us, and then they get a SolarAPP ID, and they get a SolarAPP inspection checklist, and they submit it through the jurisdiction. Do we guarantee a locally compliant submission? We are going to be basing that off of what the particular jurisdiction has given as their answers. Each jurisdiction goes through a very detailed registration process where they are filling out their local weather variables, they're filling out their fire department review process, they're filling out all of that information. So it's very detailed, but it does rely on the jurisdiction making sure that those answers are correct, right? We're just a program. We're an if-then. We're not an AI. We're not something like that. It's not super fancy. It's basically if you have this input and this other input here, one of them's got to be wrong because that doesn't make a safe solution. What's the responsibility of the local building official once receiving the submission? I would say you're still archiving the permit. You are still making sure that your inspectors are the last line of defense. They are still in charge. If the contractor says they were going to do A, B, and C, and they do X, Y, and Z, fail them. Write your corrections and walk away. You don't have to do too much overthinking on it. The process is not different just because we've now managed to make the plan review automated. We're just, again, speeding up that process. That's the better way to look at it.
Thank you so much, Steve. I am kind of amazed at your depth of knowledge in this area. So thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you're seeing as a theme in the questions or anything that you think would be important to share with folks?
Let me just see if there's anything in the webinar chat that I didn't cover.
Steve, can you address like how it's not quite working in some areas of Florida or New Mexico yet?
Oh, why we're not working there?
Yeah, like the functionality that we're working on having.
Okay. Yeah, those are very valid. So ballasted systems is a big one for New Mexico, and we're trying to figure out, how to work that in correctly. I believe we do have that the ability to do flat roof submissions, but ballasted ones are a little bit trickier, and that again can make up a lot of the submissions that we would see there. That being said, we are still actively working on all that and trying to make sure that those can be solutions that we can safely approve. And I think that's got to be like the real. If we don't do something, it's generally because we don't know how to do it safely, and we will work towards finding a solution for it. But that is generally why you may not see us doing certain types of systems like cedar shingle roofs. We don't know how to do that in a way that we can automate safely, and we feel more comfortable letting those projects go to the plan reviewer to do that kind of, personal review. And then what was the other question on that? The Florida. Florida, we're ready to go. I mean, we are in the process of getting a couple jurisdictions down there up and running on it. In the past, it had been some philosophical differences about the ability to upload plan sets or PE stamp plans. In the beginning, we felt like there was really kind of a philosophical need of like, let's try to get away from that. Like we're duplicating efforts for no reasons, but there are state mandates and state ordinances that kind of supersede that, and they're harder to get rid of. So we've kind of come to the realization that we'll allow that, and that you can do that in SolarAPP now. So if you do have some of those issues, shouldn't be a problem. We can do that. All right.
All right, thank you. All right, folks. Well, Steve and Emerald, are there, I see a couple like really specific questions in here that maybe we can have sent to the advocacy email at Sun, but is there anything else that y'all can answer live here?
That question about the greatest friction for building departments to get this implemented, Steve, I think you have a really great explanation for that.
Status quo is the biggest friction that we see. It is, I think some jurisdictions feel like we're encroaching maybe on their space. What we're trying to do is give them tools to be more efficient, more effective long term. We recognize that there are some really difficult headwinds that are coming, right? Like they're going to have people starting to retire in the next 10 years, and that bench isn't being filled quick enough. That's number one. And number two, we also recognize that EVs are happening quicker than we thought. I know that it's a bit of a slump right this year, but I think the reality is car companies have decided to make their bets on going to the EV model as opposed to the internal combustion engine. And because of those big bets that they've done, that they're putting in place, I do also personally think that you're going to see kind of a knock-on effect, kind of how you see chips and salsa as an economic indicator. They kind of rise the same and fall the same. When it rises when there's a football game, and it dips again. There's going to be a similar situation with EVs. EVs will be adopted. The electric bill will go up, and a way for homeowners to lower that is to go solar. And if they can, I think that they will, because solar is becoming more and more prevalent. It's becoming more and more common and normal for a homeowner to want to lower their bills. And I think that that's going to be something we're going to start seeing. But really, I think the biggest friction for building departments is making sure that it's compliant with their particular situation, your ordinances, your whatever's unique about your area. You just want to make sure that everything is, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and we will work with you every step of the way to make sure that that's done too. I just want you to be aware that it's not like we're just gonna let you be. We'll work with you to make sure that it's gonna implement the right way. Are there broad problems with implementation in Ohio? I think the biggest issue would be code compliance, right? That's the first thing, is that your code cycles are a little off, and that they're a little behind, and they need to get caught up. So once they're up to 2000, again, as long as the jurisdiction's able to, and what I mean by that is like there's no state regulation that prevents it. If a jurisdiction has the capability to say, I want to go to this particular code cycle, and maybe even just for SolarAPP projects, you could do that if you have the authority to do that. If you don't, that's another story. But if you do, in theory, it should allow you to adopt SolarAPP for those particular projects.
Okay, seeing a Florida question here in the chat. Are there specific cities or counties in the state of Florida that seem to be closest to adopting?
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm not at liberty to say who they are though yet.
Ah,
Um, when they go to pilot, and if the pilot is open, then everybody will know about them. Some of them are just waiting till everything's complete, and then they're going to make some pretty big announcements and stuff.
right.
Uh,
Well, oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to mention to Brittany, Miami and Miami-Dade County are not them, just so people know. Yes, I was kind of thinking that was what you were hinting at, but
All right, folks. Well, we're kind of getting near to the end of our discussion today. Thank you both of our panelists for that rapid fire. That was a lot. So thank you. Emerald, would you mind just re-sharing the current slide that we're on? All right. So folks, again, thank you so much for spending your dinner time with us, with Solar United Neighbors and our wonderful partner, SEIA. Just so you know, Sun is a 501c3 nonprofit. Our solar educational programs, including today's presentation, are supported by donors like you. If you would like to make a gift, you can do so by using the QR code that's on the screen. I will also go ahead and put a link in the chat if you're interested in going that route. Otherwise, one of the main takeaways for me today is that, you know, it's really gonna kind of take everyone getting involved here. So we would really love, you know, if you're able to go ahead and click the action link that's in the chat so that you can let your legislators and decision makers know that it's important to adopt SolarAPP. And finally, I'll share that, you know, I know that there were a lot of questions and we didn't necessarily get to all of them today, but if you are having issues utilizing the map link that Emerald shared, you can email us at advocacy@solarunitedneighbors.org. Additionally, if you would like to get further involved, if you would like to volunteer on this issue, please do sign up to volunteer with Solar United Neighbors, and we will make sure to alert you to volunteers opportunities relating to SolarAPP in the future. Other than that, thank you again for your time. We will be sending out a recording, both English and Spanish, within the next 48 hours. So if you did miss any of this, not to worry. We'll be sending out the slide deck as well. So you'll have that information on hand. And then I guess, Steve, I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot here. So, but if are you comfortable sharing if folks have questions specifically for you, how they can get in touch with you?
yeah, absolutely. I'll put it into the chat for everybody to see. Yeah, I mean, I was just chatting with one of the other people on here that the codes apparently changed at some point. Great news. Call me. Let's get something going. You know, we don't pretend to know everything, so by all means, reach out if you're having trouble or if you're looking to get more involved. You know, between Emerald and I, we're always here to help.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're right up on the end of our webinar this evening, so thank you again for your time. We hope that we see you again, and have a wonderful evening.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.